What's going on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Welcome back to some Call of Duty Modern Warfare. We got some more CDL playlists. Actually, we don't. We have a public match gameplay warming up before I was going to get gameplays, and we actually had a pretty good game. So I hope you guys do enjoy that in the background. It's Hardpoint on Gunner, so it is a CDL map, but not actually the CDL playlist. But this is the Seattle preview, right? I'm actually recording this a little bit beforehand, so if there's any last second news or things that come out, I'm sorry. I had to make this a few days ahead of time. But before we get into the matches, actually a couple of big storylines before this event gets underway. First off, the Seattle Surge are bringing back Enable back into the starting roster for Pander. I know we've talked about this before, what each player brought. You know, the change didn't work out, so they reverted it back to Enable. So the roster is now Octane, Karma, Enable, Apathy, and Slacked. So again, we'll have to wait and see how that ends up, you know, working out for them, whether Enable you know, brings that much of a difference or not. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. The second one just coming out as I'm recording this. The London Royal Ravens actually have acquired Zero from the New York Subliners, which is kind of surprising. I mean, not really in the fact that, you know, he's a European player. You know, they get him swapped out and, you know, it just doesn't end up working out. So European team takes that from them, and he moves back to a country that he's familiar with in the UK. So, I mean, London gets another player. They didn't trade anyone. They didn't release anyone, but it looks like per his tweet that he is going in the starting roster in favor of JerkyXP. So the roster now would be Wuskins, Scraps, Shawnee, Dylan, and Zero. So, like I said, I don't know what the plans are for JerkyXP. Maybe they trade him over to Paris. I don't actually know, but JerkyXP out of the lineup temporarily here for in the favor of Zero. Then arguably the biggest news, and probably going to be the most popular news, coming out of the Chicago Huntsman camp, where they finally acquired their guy. They acquire Pristini from Florida, and now he's in the starting lineup for General. Obviously, General has been filling in since Gunless was benched. General now swaps back to the bench as well, giving them a 7-man roster. The new acquisition of Pristini, their roster now sits at Formal, Arcides, Pristini, Envoy, and Scump. So we actually have some pretty talented players there. We got T2P, Time to Pound with Scump and Formal. We got the twins back together in Pristini and Arcides. And then we have Envoy. Obviously a very good player in his own right, but that's a pretty stacked roster. Plus, before we get into the matches, we also have the 4 teams not playing in this one. We have Atlanta, Dallas, Florida, and Toronto. Now this one, if Chicago doesn't win this one, I'm really going to be questioning some things. I'm going to be honest. I'm really going to be questioning things. Especially with Pristini, right? They get their dirty work guy. They get their third aggressive sub, right? Atlanta, Dallas, and Florida all not at the event, or not playing the event, I should say. That this one should be Chicago's 100%, no questions about it. They win, right? They have to win this event. They just have to. 3 of their biggest, I guess, like their most difficult matches versus Atlanta, Dallas, and Florida aren't there. So, like, they have to win. But in order to get a winner, we got to get right into the matches. So our first matchup of the tournament features the London Royal Ravens, again with their new roster, facing off against the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Now, even with the new roster, I think London will come out and win this one. LA Guerrillas, again, just not a good team. So I hate to just write them off that quickly, but I think London, with the addition of Zero, will definitely be better. And hopefully they could make a next step and, you know, get past some of those middle tier teams. But I'm predicting London to beat LA in a 3-0 fashion. Our second matchup of Group A, Round 1, features Seattle and the New York Subliners. So again, Seattle back with Enable, no longer with Pander. And also New York, I know they didn't have Zero in their starting roster, but obviously they lose him. So this one, you know, Seattle's a decent team. I know they bring back Enable. So we don't really know what that's going to be, you know, how they're playing since then. But we all know New York has been kind of like one of those teams that's kind of like an online joke type team. So I'm predicting, you know, if this was LAN, I might say Seattle could get that win. But if it's online, especially with these players on New York, I think they're going to win. It's going to be a 3-1 fashion. Maybe Seattle steals one map away, but this one easily could be a 3-0. But I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the 3-1. On to Group A, Round 2. We're going to have London versus New York. Now, once again, London, good team. However, it's online. LAN would be a different story, but if it's online, New York, they just play completely different online. So I'm going to have to give this one to New York as well, moving them on in the 3-1 Game 4 fashion. But we got to catch up on the loser side of the bracket. We have Group A losers round 1. We're going to have the Los Angeles Guerrillas and the Seattle Surge. Now, everybody knows the story of these teams where Seattle is 4-0 against the Los Angeles Guerrillas, but Seattle versus everyone else 0-10. Now, I don't remember what exact stats those are now, but basically Seattle has only beaten LA, and LA just is not a good team. So in this one, we are going to favor Seattle once again. We're going to have them as a 3-0. Could LA steal a map? Possibly, but I just think Seattle's going to come out and hand them the 3-0. Next up in Group A, losers round 2. It's going to feature Seattle and London. Now, Seattle, again, they beat one of the worst teams in the league, but this is where they fall. I think London's going to take this one. You know, could be 3-0, could be Game 5, but I'm going right in the middle of them. It's going to be a game for 3-1 for London, moving them on. From Group A, we're going to have the New York Subliners on the winner side of the bracket, and we're going to have London on the loser side in the semifinals. But in order to get their opponents, we got to get to Group B. The first matchup, we're going to have Paris versus Chicago. Again, Chicago with the new roster, with Pristini. That I think this one's going to be, I don't want to say easy, but I think that Chicago comes out and handles business. You know, I wanted to say 3-0, but Paris has been known to have some upsets in their history and on their resume. So I'm predicting Chicago to win this one 3-1. Our second matchup of Group B, Round 1, features Minnesota and Optic Gaming Los Angeles. Optic Gaming Los Angeles still with their new roster with Chino in favor of JCap. You know, it is an event old now, and they're coming off of a Grand Finals appearance against Atlanta. They do fall in that one, but I do predict in this one that Optic Gaming LA do take this one against Minnesota 3-1, moving them on to the second round. So here we have old Optic versus the new Optic, where Chicago Huntsmen are facing off against Optic Gaming LA. And this one, I don't think this one's going to be close. It could potentially be close, but I really don't feel like it's going to. I think Chicago's going to come out, sweep them, and sweep them right out the door 3-0. Now, again, Optic Gaming coming off the Grand Finals appearance, but I don't know. Just something about this new look Chicago roster makes them look almost unstoppable, but we'll have to see how they play this weekend. Jumping down to the loser side of the bracket, we're going to have Group B losers round 1. We're going to have Paris versus Minnesota. Now, this one could be close, or it could be an absolute stomp. It could go either way. Like I said, online is a crazy place, but Paris, Minnesota, it's so hard, but we're going to pick Minnesota in this one in the Game 5. You know, they are just such weird teams that they work really well. So, it could go either way, but we're going to take Minnesota in this one. In Group B, losers round 2, we're going to have Optic Gaming LA going against Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is kind of a strange team in the fact that they just work, even though they don't have, you know, necessarily the greatest of players on the roster. But I think Optic Gaming is going to come out and take this one. 3-1 is what I predicted. Could be a 3-0, could be Game 5. This one could be all over the place again. Online is nuts. But that moves us on for Chicago for the winner's side and Optic Gaming Los Angeles on the loser's side. So we have our final four. We're going to have the New York Subliners and Optic Gaming Los Angeles, and then Chicago versus London as our two matchups. Starting with the first one, though, we're going to have the Subliners versus Optic Gaming LA. And this one, again, could go either way, especially being online. And I think I changed this one the most when I was going through the bracket. And this one could go either way, could go game 5, but I'm predicting Optic Gaming in 4. I don't know what it is, but you know, subliners do have the potential to upset this if it is an upset. But online, anything can happen. But I think Optic Gaming is going to take this one 3-1. Now this one's going to be the battle of the new rosters as Pristini jumps in for Chicago, Zero in for London. But I think Chicago's going to come out and wipe the floor with London. Again, good team, but you just never know what London's going to bring, especially with a new roster on their hands. But I'm predicting this one. Chicago wins this one 3-0, moving them on to the finals versus Optic Gaming LA. In the finals, we're going to have the Chicago Huntsmen and Optic Gaming Los Angeles, as this one, you know, they did already play, and I predicted 3-0. Could be another 3-0, could be 3-1. I put 3-0 on this one, but it could go either way, like I said. But for Chicago, this event is huge, right? Obviously, they haven't had a ton of practice with Pristini. You know, they've been playing with General ever since Gunless got benched. But I feel like this could be the roster that puts the Huntsmen back in contention for the #1 spot. Now, obviously, if we look at the standings right now, Atlanta FaZe is at the top with 170 points. Dallas is second at 150, and Chicago is at 130 as the top 3 teams. Now, when you look at that, Atlanta and Dallas are not there. So, barring Chicago gets double first rounded, that they're going to move up, right? I think it's what? Is it 10 points for last if you get double first rounded? Then it's, what, 20 points and 30, then 50, I think? Something like that. So, I think Chicago will be in the grand finals, definitely. So, they should get those points. And I definitely think they could win this one. So, if you look at the standings, you know, it's got to be theirs, right? Given the teams that aren't there, Chicago has to win this event. Now, if they don't, even if they make the grand finals and lose, I don't know what this team does. Obviously, they just made a roster change. They just acquired a player. So they're just going to keep practicing with him and get better, hopefully. But in my opinion, Chicago has to win this one, and it's theirs to lose. I mean, their matchups aren't crazy. They're not against any crazy teams. You know, as if I predicted the matchups that are going to happen, they face off against Paris, who they've beaten before. They face off against Optic Gaming LA, who I believe they've beaten before. They face off against London, who I think they've beaten before. And then they face off against Optic Gaming Los Angeles once again in the grand finals, which they beat them early in the tournament. So, again, I feel like this one is theirs to lose and win. So all the pressure's on them, obviously being one of the top teams there. And I definitely do think after this weekend, they'll be back in first place. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Leave all your thoughts and comments and your predictions down in the comment sections below. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, guys, see you next time.